Hey everyone, and welcome to TechnoPuzzle. So, I am starting a new series of tutorials called Python Mini Tutorials. In this series, I will be explaining Python concepts little by little. I'll cover one small topic in each video that will come to this series, and those topics will obviously be related to Python only. So, in the first one, I am going to explain how can we take user inputs in Python. So, let's get started with that. So first of all, let me tell more things about this series. So in this series of videos, I am going to take some little concepts of Python like taking user inputs, if-else conditional statement, infinite loops, while loops, etc., and explain all of them in separate videos. So each video will be just short only, not very long, and each video will just have the content related to those small things only. It's not a beginner's Python course. If you want to learn Python from beginners, what you can do is check the link in the description. I have also made a course called Python for Beginners. So let's get started with this thing now. First of all, let me add a comment. Also, I am going to be using Sublime Text for this tutorial. You can use whatever text editor or IDE you want. You can also use Python ideally that comes by default from Python package. So enough talking, let's start doing it now. So first of all, let's add a comment called how to take user input. So first of all, what is user input? The user input is something that is provided by the user, right? During the execution of the program. So for example, let's say we want to print someone's name. You can say simply in Python print. Let's say we want to say hello to the person. We can say hello, and then let's say the name of the person is Avinav. Okay, so I can say hello Avinav, and if we run this, it will run exactly as you might expect. So if you notice at the bottom, it says hello Avinav as the output. So it's working properly. It's just a simple print statement. Now let's say we don't know the name of the person, right? So the person can be Avinav, the person can be Vaibhav, the person can be anyone. So we don't know the name. So in this case, let's say we want to ask from the user what is your name, or what is the name of the person that we want to say hello to, right? So in this case, what can we do? Well, we have to take a user input here. So first of all, we use input function. It's just a function like print function. We can use input function to take user input, and that's it. It's as simple as that. But now the data that is being provided by the input function that is taken from the user, we have to store it somewhere, right? So let's create a variable called, let's say, user underscore input is equal to input function. And now let me just change this thing to hello, and then wait a little, user underscore input, and I'm going to be using an f string. So f string basically means formatted strings. In f strings we can basically pass variables or Python expressions within these curly braces, and it is executed as a Python expression and not as a string. So if we run this here, we are prompted. Sorry for the inconvenience. For some reason I'm not able to basically run this thing in uh, what is it, Sublime Text itself, because I'm not able to insert the input value. So what I'm going to do is I'm using the command prompt to execute this Python script. So as you can see, the output window is waiting for the user to add some input. So in this case, the user is only me. So let's add Anshu as the user input. And now if I will hit enter, this Anshu will get stored inside this user input variable. And then we will be printing hello and then Anshu. So let's see what we get. Yes, we got hello Anshu as expected. So let me just run this thing once again. and this time again it's waiting for the user input. Let's add Avinav this time, and say it says hello Avinav. But now this is a little weird because we don't know what we have to enter here, right? So if we run this again and it says nothing, so how will the user know that he or she has to enter his or her name? So first of all, we have to show some message to the user, right? So that he or she can understand what he or she has to do. So first of all, for giving the message, we can already use print function, but there's one more better way to do it. You can just pass the message inside input function itself. So for example, here let's say enter your name and then colon and then space, so that the user can enter after this space, so that it doesn't mess up with the message. Because if we don't add a space, the text entered by the user will be mixed up by this message, and obviously this value will be in the form of a string. So now if we run this again, hold on a second. Now if we run this script again, see it says enter your name. So let's enter something. Let's enter like John maybe. Okay, now let's press enter and see it says hello John. But this time we were knowing that what we have to do here. It said to the user enter your name, so the user will understand that he or she has to enter the name, right? So this is a much better case. Now one more thing, let's say we have to use some numbers. Let's say we have to accept some numbers here. So let's just change this to no for number. Let's actually do no1 for number 1, and then do, just a second, no2 for accepting number 2. Let's say we want to accept two numbers here, right? And we want to display the sum of the two. So let's say print sum is no1 plus no2. Now this should work, right? Because in the no1 we have accepted the first number from the user, and in no2 we have accepted the second number from the user. So this, it should be printed out sum is whatever the sum of the numbers will be. So let's see what we get here. It says enter number 1, let's enter 23. Enter number 2, let's say 12. And so the sum should be what? 3 plus 2 5, 2 1 2 plus 1 3, 35. The sum should be 35. So let's see what we get. We got 2312. So how is this happening? See, the input function actually returns a string. Whatever the user enters, it just gets converted or it just gets interpreted as a string. So what we have to do is we have to use the int function before it, so that the string gets converted into an integer. Obviously it can't convert a text into an integer, but if the text uh, contains the digits, it can. Otherwise it will throw an error. So now let's run it again, and let's say at 23, let's say 12, and see, we got sum is 35 this time. Before it was just concatenating two strings. Now it's actually adding those two numbers. So this is it for this session on a small tutorial related to Python. In this session you understood about how to take user inputs. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.